If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I've got Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a new year. Not really a new me because, I'm old. How about you?
Yeah, I feel the not really a new me because I'm old. Like that's a thing. No, everything's going pretty well. New jobs, the job change is going well, and everything's transitioning fairly decently.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I do have a problem with the previous episode.
Oh, you do? I've got a problem with the way we did the intro, actually. I was wondering if we could just change it.
Oh, I don't know. Going back and changing that would be a problem.
I mean, wouldn't it be a bigger problem if we went back and changed the previous episode?
Oh, like a complete episode. Like it never happened. We'll just tell people it never happened. We'll delist it and we'll re-record a new one. How's that sound?
Yeah, you as the listener would like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
We'll just retcon it out of existence.
Yeah. No. I hate retcons. I hate them so much. But, we did talk about the bait and switch game the other week. And I was thinking, what's the difference between a bait and switch game and a retcon? And then I thought maybe that'd be a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah. So I've definitely talked this subject with Jared when Jared was the co-host here.
Jared was never the co-host. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. All right. We erased him from existence. I actually deleted all those episodes. I'm going to go do that. You'll forget about him before you know it. It might have been on the 10 things you really shouldn't do episode as well. It definitely comes up a lot. So the difference between the bait and switch game and the retcon is the bait and switch game, you have intention to change the style of the game. Okay. It is a thematic shift that you are purposely doing. You are not telling the players to disregard what they have previously done. You are telling the players, this is the new reality that you are in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a very different tone from a retcon. The retcon, and gonna give you the TLDR right now. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Okay. I might have like one little caveat as to when you could possibly do it, but for 99.99999% of the times, do not retcon your games. So retconning means you've allowed your villain to show up too early and he's dead now. And now you want to take that back. You want to do over on something that you've already executed within the game, and now you want to do over on it. And the problem is that the jury cannot forget. The jury knows.
Yeah, I think bait and switch games, even the ones we talked about where you're not changing the style of the game, you've got like a tonal shift. Something happens. The person you thought was a good guy is now a bad guy. These are all planned. If you're doing this in a bait and switch game, if you're writing the story with this in mind, then you've got foreshadowing. You've got information. You are telling your players, hey, all that stuff that happened before still absolutely happened, but now you get to look at it in a new light. A retcon means you screwed something up and you want to change it. Like,
yeah, you gave your players too much information. You gave your player, you let someone expose your main, you've exposed your main storyline way too early, and you want to change it. It tends to be a major tonal change and a major mistake made by the GM
Mhm.
where you have to do it. It's not something your players did that's a major mistake. It's something that you did when you were telling the story that's a major mistake.
Yeah. So retcon comes from the term retroactive continuity. It means you're going back in time and changing core aspects of what things were. If you add or remove information from the world in this way, you've broken your story. You have you screwed up to the point where you have to use it, and now you've broken the story. It's better not to retcon. If you've written yourself into a corner, um, you know, Aaron's given you a couple of good examples here. Players did something you didn't expect. A key NPC has died. If you gave your players an item that they shouldn't have, something like this, where you now need to go and change history, don't. Just don't. It's a terrible idea. This is every single one of these situations that we've said is not the players have made a mistake. It's you have made a mistake. You have made the mistake with your story, and you don't see a way out of it. I'm going to tell you right now, there's absolutely a way out of it.
There's always a way out of. There's always a better solution than retconning. Like, it should be your absolute last possible option. Like, there's no other way to salvage this game unless I change these details and tell my players that these things have changed. Okay, and even then, I would argue that you probably haven't thought hard enough about it.
Now, if you absolutely have written yourself into the corner and can't come up with a solution for it, don't tell your players this is how it's going to be and there is no rhyme or reason. Like, maybe engage with your players. If you've got to make changes to your story and that are big, you need to engage with your players. You need to, like, hey, this wasn't supposed to happen. These things are wrong. I'd like to do these things. How can we make this happen? It's rough. It's terrible. They're going to have a bad experience with the story, but you're going to get to a conclusion at the end of the story so that they can move on to something else. It's like trying to salvage a train wreck. Okay? It's not a good experience. The better way.
So what you've done is you've almost collided with the other train, and then you decide to retcon it, and now it's a train wreck. Now, anything that you do after the retcon is likely going to be a train wreck. And again, there's like, as I say, I said right at the beginning, there are a couple of things that like you could retcon. Like, let's say I gave you a name of somebody, okay? And then when I was writing up the rest of my story, I didn't like the last name very much. Okay? So we're just going to change that. Okay? It's okay to do that. It's not like wonderful, but it's like, well, okay, it's just a name. It's so minor, it doesn't matter. Now, if the name is like integral to your story, and you gave the wrong name, or you gave them a name, and you're like, no, now they know too much about my story, then it's unforgivable. But if it's just like I for example, like Jared will oftentimes have an NPC, and we will mispronounce the name so many times, or like have it so close to like another name that eventually he's just like, okay, he's this name. Okay, and
every gaming group does this. They rename NPCs. This is where Boblin the Goblin came from. But yeah, absolutely. If you need to make a change, small changes like a name.
Name, location. Maybe I told you the wrong location. Let's say you're following like clues, and then I came back the next day. I'm like, oh crap! I gave you the wrong location. Name. I have to. He told you this location actually, so you can go do the right thing. So I'm not sending you to Indiana versus Iowa.
Yeah, if you've got say you gave your players an item, don't take it away from them. Say, hey, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong stats. Here, it's minor changes. minor changes that you can work with if they're absolutely broken. If you've got an NPC that's died that you need to have survived, maybe they clung to life just long enough to get the little bit of information out, or they have a brother.
Again, so this is where you get into the solutioning for.
Yeah.
Which is opposite the retconning. And when I said, like, if you have to retcon, you probably haven't thought about it hard enough, which is anything that you do in your game can be solved by rolling with what you've done and then coming up with a better solution. Okay? For example, that magic item, okay, you could change some of the stats on the magic item, right?
Minor. Don't make major changes like, hey, I know I gave you the Sword of Awesomeness, but it's actually the Dagger of kind of okayness.
Yeah, so you could do that, or you could say, okay, I did give you the Sword of Awesomeness, okay? And I'm going to let you use it for a little while. At some point, you're going to miss your strike, you're going to roll a 1, or do something with it that fails in combat, and it's going to crash onto the floor, and it's going to break, and the Sword of Awesomeness is now going to be a broken sword that isn't so awesome.
Or it's some sort of cursed object. Yes, it seems awesome at first, but it's insidious and eats its way into your brain. It could be a number of different things you could do with that. Like I said with the NPC, give him a brother. Give it somebody else.
The NPC, there's always somebody else who knows the information. Okay. If you can't think of one person who knows the information, he was the only person in the world who knew. Okay, he must have told the secret to somebody.
You gave your players an item they shouldn't have. It's been cursed. Yes. Players broke the story.
Or with the NPC one. Okay. The other he's never conversed about the thing, but his brother found these important papers, these important tomes.
Absolutely.
Okay. That he thought that you should have because you were so close with his brother who just died in the last scene in a tragic way because you decided to include an NPC in combat foolishly.
Or that ring that he always wore. Just like you remember it flash just as he died in your arms. And suddenly, somehow in the back of your brain, you've got a voice that just barely speaks. And now you've got to get to Vulcan to have your Katra removed and have him become his own person because it was a mind meld.
I see. Look how much fun.
New story.
Look how much fun you can have with those just very, very minor, very simple ideas. Yes, there is a better solution by going through the pain that you've decided to cause yourself versus the pain that everyone will feel at the table if you decide to just change it.
Yeah, if you feel that you've written yourself into a corner and there's no solution, there's no way to get out of it, there's literally something called a Deus Ex Machina, a god from a machine. In plays, they would just have like a god descend from a crane onto the stage and fix problems that were, in the story. It's your story. You are the arbiter of what is and what isn't in the story. But do it in a way that is fun for your players, which means that whatever's happened has happened. But you can literally make anything happen going forward.
Yeah. Again, you should examine the situation, and it's okay if you paint yourself into a corner to stop your session early. It's okay to be like, or say, hey, I need 20 minutes. Or I need just a little bit of time to think this through because I messed up. I let you convince Sir Buzzleworm to come into combat with you against those bandits, and the bandits murdered him.
Yeah. Or you can lean into it and be like, well, that was really terrible. What's just happened. And I think we all need just a moment to think about it. I think this is a great time to end the session. I know it's a little early. And all the time you're being calm and saying these things. You're scribbling notes behind your screen. But there's all sorts of options that you can make. They left their notes with somebody else. That key that they needed. Maybe instead of them knowing how to get the key, they've got like a map in their pocket that you grab as on the way out. Maybe somebody delivers it to you. Like maybe just another NPC has the information. There's any number of ways to get around one of these screw ups.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's your fault to begin with.
Not everybody in there, is a steel trap, and they divulge no other information. When they die, it goes with them, and it's gone forever. Okay, not everything is like that, and also your players don't know. Okay, your players don't know that that's how you wrote the NPC, or that's how you wrote the scenario, or whatever. Is that like this is the only way you could obtain the information, and that's typically why you fall into the trap of retconning. Is because you've convinced yourself that that's the only way that the players can accomplish / obtain information or do the thing, whatever it's going to be. And it's not that situation. It's that you just have to go, okay, well, they got rid of the only way that I thought to do this, but all I need to do is just say, he had a map.
The only other thing I can think of, and this is a problem with the way that you've written the story, if you've done this, is making an NPC the quote unquote chosen one. It's the only one that can stop the apocalypse. They have to be at the place when the thing happens.
That is a gaming sin beyond gaming sin.
It is. That is, you have written a problem, and you are like flaunting your bad decision anytime it comes near danger. That's just a problem. Like, what made them the chosen one then?
Your players are your chosen ones. Okay, yeah. I don't care what I don't care what fantasy novels you like to read or anything like that. I don't care what movies you like.
NPC, the chosen one, that's a self-insert character that you are now making your friends play to make you feel good. Don't do that.
It's generally an uninteresting story to have to chauffeur the chosen one around, but it's almost more of an uninteresting story. It's just a worse story because now everything you do has to be to protect the chosen one.
It's a really fun story. You go to rescue the chosen one to save the universe, and then he dies. And now your players have to figure out what's going to happen now that there isn't a chosen one. How do they save the universe without a chosen one? They've got to pick up the mantle and do it themselves. That's a much more fun story.
Yes.
They should kill the NPC at that point. Go for it. So what about making retcon fun? Playing with it and actually enjoying it. Do you think you could do it?
No, you don't do it. I'm not even going to try to placate to your situation. You don't retcon.
I'm going to do it.
Sorry. No, there is one way that you can play a retcon based game. Okay. And it is a game where hinky stuff is happening all around you. Okay. Time is not a straight line. This is like you're playing like a Christopher Nolan movie. Okay.
Ooh. Full on Tenet.
Then retconning can happen because continuity in that situation doesn't really make any sense. So when continuity doesn't make sense, then you can retcon to your heart's content. You can kill a very important NPC and they're alive in another scene. Okay, will they die in the future? I don't know. I don't know how long they've got, but I know I got to get information out of them.
I thought it would be fun. Like, I've written myself into some corners before. I find ways out. That's just something you have to figure out on your own. But I thought it would be fun to take a story that I've done before and the characters and players that were in the story. And that part that I thought, they were supposed to do it the other way, make a one-shot out of it. Do it like the Marvel what ifs, so that you change it. And then you have to really, if you're going to do this, lean into the changes and blur past any of the stuff your players have already done. Make it a different story. Make it interesting. They recognize the characters, they see the events, and then they see the one big change. And that big change escalates into other changes and to other changes. But it has to be a one-shot. It has to be something that's, and lean into the differences because that makes it fun. It's a retcon, but in a style that, like comic books and Marvel, where you've got like multiverses, where one change spirals into other things. It's a fun experience to say, "Hey, I know I made a mistake back here. This is what it would have been like." Except you can't just make it the same story. You have to lean into changes and make it like, "Hey, if we had done it this way, how crazy can we get with it?"
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. That that again, that's a. It's not even retconning. It's
a new story.
It's a new story, and like that's the difference. There is that retconning is your existing story is you've done something in your existing story to make it so you feel like you don't have another choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you do. You just haven't figured it out yet. Okay, I can't stress that enough. You have another choice. There just isn't a way that you've. I can't think of many gaming situations where it couldn't have happened a different way.
Yeah, I think it's not. When I've run into game masters who have gone the route of the retcon, I think the majority of them are not doing it because they can't work their way out of a situation or roll with the punches. It's because they had a plan for a story, and any deviation from that means they've got to rewrite the whole thing. It's the perfectionist mindset, and that is in itself a problem with your structuring rather than with the story that you're telling. If you have specific beats that need to be hit in order for you to get to the end of it, you've made a mistake in assuming that people are going to act exactly the way that you expect them to. Right?
Yes. I mean, I agree with your point entirely. That's sort of the whole mantra here of the Level Up Your Gaming podcast has been to explain to you how to work through a situation where your players don't do something that you expect them to do, or how do you make a situation more flexible, so that you can write better situations that have more outcomes to them that will be more enjoyable. I've said it many times before. I've talked about it many times before. The only two things that you're going to have full control over in your game is how it begins and how it ends. Okay? Everything else in the middle is sort of the players working their way through different doors that you have set up to different encounters, and they'll eventually make their way to the end of the game. And the games tend to start very narrow and they'll end narrow at the end because you're going to give them more pointed clues as they get to the end. But in the middle, there's a lot more broadness and a lot more situation where if you only thought of one way for the players to execute something, then yes, you're always going to feel like I need to change the story. And that's where the retconning demons come in. But at that point, you haven't lost control of anything. You haven't lost control of your players. You haven't lost control of the story. You haven't lost control of anything. You just have to see what your players did and react accordingly, and know how that decision affects their pathing to the final decision, which is what you want them to ultimately get to.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of trust the process. If you get too hung up on the details, then you're going to miss the opportunities you've got to tell the story that you are actually telling because you think it's something else.
Yes. The other thing that could be a problem too is that you've made your game too broad and you don't understand what your goal is for your players. And so if you don't know where you want your players to go, by the time you figure out a goal, that's when you now run into the problem of I need to retcon a bunch of stuff the players or I've done up to this point. And that's even a worse situation. So have an idea of where you want to go. It'll help you avoid a lot of the headaches of like needing to retcon or feeling like you need to retcon anywhere along the way. Because the general gist of this whole episode is don't do it. Jeez,
Yeah.
just don't do it.
There are so many better ways to do it, and it like you can make minor changes, but they have to be super minor, and it either has to be seem like I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's actually this guy's name instead of that thing, or no, it's actually on the west side of town. I told you the east. I don't know where my head was, or it could if it's minor enough, it could actually feel like you planned it. And people are like, oh man, was this intentional? Ooh. But like, don't make major changes to the history of your game. Find ways to move through it, to move past it, because it'll tell a better story if you are able to roll with those punches.
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider minor changes generally to be a problem unless you're always making minor changes. So, like, if you make a couple here or there, like, I gave you the wrong name out of there. Like, you might have picked or somehow referenced the wrong NPC that has nothing to do with the story whatsoever, and you're like, oh my god, that's not the name of the guy they gave you. It's this guy, and then you guys need to know that because otherwise you're gonna be pissed off and lost.
If you make enough of those mistakes, your players might start thinking it's part of the story, and they might start be looking for like reasons that the information they were given is wrong all the time. And now you've got to write yourself into like a false Hydra situation. And, that can be fun, except you did this to yourself.
Again, Josh, in your Cyberpunk game, your players were inherently distrustful of you as the GM.
It was intentional.
So could you imagine if you were constantly changing little details?
Oh, yeah, no, I did. But it was intentional. Like I had planned it. So that's not retcon. There's a story reason the information you're getting is always wrong. And that was part of the story. They figured it out. They got to the thing. But I had planned it. If I'm just making stuff up.
The more little details you start to change, the more it also ultimately breaks the immersion of the game, which is difficult.
Well, the other thing I did with that was that only digital information was wrong. When they talked to people face to face, they always got a straight answer. So they started going offline in a Cyberpunk game because they couldn't trust the online. That was fully the intent and part of the story. So, yeah.
But yeah. I think you had wrapped it up very well with your previous statement. So I'm going to ask if you have anything else you want to add to the retcon situation. Maybe we should just redo this whole podcast. Okay, let's start over again. So retconning.
No, I never said retconning. We're not we're doing something else. I would like to have one last thing to say about retconning. I don't think we've said it so far. I think it's very important. If you're planning on retconning, don't. Yeah. I know we've never said that before. I'm going to say it now. Don't.
Thank you for at least saying that. If you want us to change anything about this episode and maybe retcon some of the other episodes, let us know. levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Also, the podcast is on YouTube, so smash the like button there. Subscribe to the podcast to your favorite podcasting site. Recommend it to a friend. Review it. All those good things. And that'll wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Don't retcon.